Chittang Dantang Sukhawahang. A well-trained mind brings forth happiness. For most of us, we might already have experienced this truth for ourselves. It relates to the mind, to the nature of the mind, or what we refer to as nama dhamma. The mind is the leader of everything. It decides everything. It performs its duty all the time in our life, and it's at the very center of our life. So if we take the time and interest to train it, to do that which is useful and beneficial, this will naturally lead to our progress and our success. In the opposite way, if we neglect it or let it fall into unskillful, unwholesome ways, then this will be to our decline, our suffering. Mano Pubhangamata Mano Seta Mano Maya. This famous teaching of the Buddha. The mind is the forerunner of everything. It's the leader. Everything is completed from the mind. So in the training of the mind, we begin by seeing the value of the external environment around us, how it affects us. We learn what is conducive to the practice, what is a conducive environment for training this mind. Different factors are involved, such as the people around us. If the people are supportive of the practice, this is good. If the place is quiet and suitable for the practice, well, this is a supportive condition in the environment. If we have time available for the practice, this is a supportive condition. One of the suitable times for practice is the evening and night time, when it's dark and when we tend to set aside other activities. It's a time when usually the world is quiet, there's not much happening, and it's perhaps easier for us to practice letting go of our concerns and our worries about our daily duties and activities. It's a time when we can reflect on the simple truth that nothing is ours, nothing belongs to us. This is a reflection we use to train the mind to develop wisdom and understanding and to prevent suffering from arising. You could say it's the fertile ground for insight. Like when you're planting a seed out in the world, you'll need fertile earth. You dig a hole, you put the seed in. You need to bring that seed fertilizer and nutrition, water, protect it from pests. It needs sunlight and so on. With all these conditions, over time, you'll see that seed grow and flourish into a healthy plant. Our mind is like this. If we give it the right conditions, supportive conditions, then we can experience good mental health, and this good mental health will lead to our success. To do this, we practice samadhi bhavana, the mental training of developing samadhi, firmness of mind. This is a cause for good mental health, and if we develop our mind in this positive way, in a wholesome way, this will be to our benefit. We're developing that which is natural, in the natural condition of this body and mind, in a positive and correct way. One of the ways we do this is reflecting on the simple truth that the Buddha had us encouraged us to reflect on a daily basis. The fact that we are of the nature to age. This is ordinary, this is usual for a human being to be subject to aging, getting older all the time. We're of the nature to fall ill, get sick. This is ordinary for a human being. We're of the nature to decline and degenerate and eventually come to our death. This is natural, this is ordinary for a human being. With death we have to separate from all that we love and like, and this is natural, ordinary for a human being. We reflect in this way, say on the nature of our life. We begin life as a child, but we don't stay as a child. A child must grow up, and they become a teenager. And as they become a teenager, they separate from childhood. From teenage years they go into, you might say, middle age, or youth and then middle age, and they separate from their teenage or years of youth. Middle age goes into old age, and they separate from middle age and become old. We reflect on this as seeing this is just truth of the way things are, so as not to be deluded by the world, by life. And this can bring the mind to a sense of peace and seclusion from its mental defilements. And it allows us to relate to the world with wisdom. With wisdom we can do that which is beneficial. On the most basic level, this reflection, you could say, is an antidote to sensual desire, the quality that the mind grasping and craving for this body and the different pleasant experiences that come with having a body. This is a great source of delusion. So we're reflecting on the truth that really this body is a corpse. Ultimately it becomes a corpse. And you could say we're learning to see the beauty of the corpse, meaning by reflecting in this way we come to see truth, by seeing that the body is impermanent, it must die and pass away. Like a corpse, it becomes a corpse. Samatha Samadhi, the practice of developing tranquility, peace of mind, is a skillful tool that we use to develop this sense of inner peace and quietness of mind. Vipassana Samadhi is also a skillful tool for developing clarity so that we can see truth. Both of these result in bringing us to inner happiness, and the mind experiences happiness through the practice of these two. They bring us to have our own inner refuge. They say, Yo Dhammang Passati, So Dhammang Passati. One who sees the Dhamma sees the Buddha. One who sees the Buddha sees the Dhamma. How does this arise? Well, it comes through encouraging the mind, adjusting the mind, developing the mind in the correct way, continuously through our life. We develop a sense of wakefulness, awareness, clarity, as characterized by those recollections of the Buddha, the recollection of the Dhamma, recollection of the Sangha, recollection of Sila, recollection of generosity. All these anusatis, or recollections, are skillful ways for developing this state of a wakeful, alert, aware mind. Develops the inner qualities and virtues of one who has a true refuge. The Buddha said, Atahi atano nato, become a refuge to yourself. So as time is passing by, we should take that teaching, give it importance, and see the value of training ourselves. This kind of training is developing our inner wealth, spiritual wealth, and one who does this will see and not doubt the value of the practice. Even if we're new to the practice, unfamiliar with it, if we take the time to do the practice, we can change ourselves to see, grow to see truth, and change our view of the world for the better. So the practice of samatha bhavana develops a sense of inner contentment, relaxed happiness of mind. It allows us to free our mind from its normal infatuation and attachment to sense objects. and it brings all our attention and awareness inwards peacefully so that we can see truth. Samatha Bhavana then is a way of developing inner peace of mind. It's a skillful means to support the arising of right view, seeing truth correctly, or a pure view of truth, of reality. Because out of samatha grows vipassana, insight into the truth based on a clear vision of truth. Samatha and vipassana meditation, they're related in this way, they support each other. Whichever one you talk about, they're both important, they're both vital in the practice. They both are skillful actions for developing the mind. Through the practice of samatha, we develop this inner peace and quietness, a peace based on a sense of not having to seek anything else outside of oneself. One takes up what one has right here in this body and mind. Gaya-nupassana takes the body as an object to develop awareness. Out of focusing the mind on the body as an object, we develop an understanding of the three characteristics of existence: anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, not self, with reference to this body. Out of this we also become aware of the universal nature of these three characteristics. They apply to both the physical and mental world, our inner physical and mental world, and then the physical mental world around us. By reflecting, contemplating in this way, we're developing an understanding that frees the mind from delusion and attachment, brings the mind to see the body or know the body as the body, see the body in the body, meaning seeing it as it is just something that is part of nature, that functions according to nature. And this kind of insight helps us to abandon our normal attraction or infatuation with this human body. We come to see it as something that is not inherently attractive or beautiful, as we usually believe it to be. This insight removes the delusion which normally covers over the mind, and it helps us to abandon the normal expressions of this delusion. Normally we're caught up in desire for pleasure and a rejection of pain. We experience liking things, wanting things, and disliking, not wanting things. And this is a basis for suffering to arise in the mind. But as we contemplate, we come to see that both the positive and the negative are dukkha. They are a cause for dukkha, a cause for suffering. If we attach to happiness, this is not a basis for peace of mind. If we attach to pain or suffering, this is not a basis for peace of mind. Both these qualities delude us. They disturb the mind, they weaken the mind, they bring the mind to inner dissatisfaction, they shake the mind, and by following desires of liking and disliking, we keep falling into wrong views, a misunderstanding of truth. Falling into wrong views and attaching to our desires in this way, in an ignorant way, you can compare to getting caught up in a fire. Fire is something that is hot and burns, and as long as you keep feeding fuel to that fire, then you keep getting the heat, you keep getting burned. Or you can compare it to water in the ocean. The ocean is never full. You can always receive more water. There's always more water flowing into the ocean. It never overflows. And desire is like that, and the nature of craving and ignorant desire is that it just keeps on flowing, affecting the mind in a never-ending way, bringing it disturbance, taking away its peace. So we are considering the truth of this body, focusing on our attention on the body as an object of awareness, coming to see it as it is, that it is not a self, a being, a person. It is just something that functions in nature, in itself. It goes according to nature. It ages. It must come to an end. It must die. The more we focus on this truth, then we see it is a pointer. It's something that points us in the right direction. It points us to inner purity and peace of mind. We can see that when we bring our attention to these simple truths, that the body is subject to aging, sickness and death, and then we're getting the highest of teachings when we reflect in this way, what we call Devadutta, the highest or the most superior kind of teaching or messenger. It's just the simple reality of old age, sickness and death. These teachings apply to us in every place, every time, every era. They're never irrelevant. They're always relevant to us. When we come to really see and understand these truths, it helps us to abandon our attachment to sensuality, to the lust and the ignorant attachment to this body. It leads to a sense of weariness or tiredness of the infatuation and intoxication with this body. It leads to the eradication of unwholesome mental states based on this body. It results in seeing the body as the body. It's just a material phenomenon, it's part of nature, without a sense of self, a being, without a sense of me or mine involved with it. So it helps us to abandon our normal attachment to a self-view or sakkaya ditthi, and it's giving importance to the perception of self all the time, or interpreting everything as a self. It leads to the abandoning of ditthi mana, the attachment to views and opinions, say wrong views and opinions, and the conceit of self. Instead arises peace in the mind. This peace is an inner happiness arising from a purity of view, a clarity of insight, an inner peace of mind. So we should really see the importance of practicing to develop this. We should see the importance of developing mindfulness at all times. Be one who sees the danger in samsara, the endless cycle of birth and death. This practice of mindfulness and wisdom brings us to see through the apparent reality of things, which normally deludes us, until we can see vimutti, the ultimate or truth of liberation. Helps us to separate between samuti satcha, say the apparent or conventional reality that we're normally relating to see through to vimutti satcha, the liberated truth of the mind. As you could say samuti satcha, say the apparent reality that we often are always attaching to. This covers up truth. Vimutti is the opening up of the mind to truth. To do this, we establish the one who knows, this quality of mindfulness, as a supportive condition for the arising of the mokkha dhammas, the dhammas that liberate the heart. What's it being liberated from? Liberated from darkness, defilement, ignorance, impurity of view. In short, greed, anger and delusion. We develop this quality of the knowing or the one who knows as part of our practice of heedfulness. And the way we perfect this is through the practice of Kaya Gata Sati, developing mindfulness of this body. so that we can see what is true and what is not, what is appropriate and what is not, so that we can see through delusion, so that we can overcome all the obstacles and hindrances to insight, so that we can experience freedom from ignorance and wrong view. You could say these are the qualities, say the quality of the one who knows, and all the dhammas that grow out of this one who knows. These are the qualities of one travelling along the spiritual path, what we call a bodhisattva. Bodhi means one who is moving towards or travelling towards realization and enlightenment. So we're developing this path, developing the skillful means to bring the mind to peace and free it from all its fetters and attachments, to let go of all sensual attachment and ignorant attachment to this world. One skillful means we develop in the practice to counter our normal attachment to the senses and the object of the senses is Tudonga Gamatana. Tudonga means that quality of going against desires, unwholesome desires, eroding away unwholesome desires in order to change the mode of the mind, the way the mind thinks. We go against desires, for instance, the desire that forms around our robes as monks or clothing as lay people. We use skillful or wise reflection to consider why do we use robes, clothing. We use our robes and clothing to protect us from the heat, the cold, from the effects of biting animals, insects and so on, and to cover ourselves up so that we can feel comfortable and modest with other people. We might consider that to go against our normal infatuation with clothing, robes. We like to have fine clothing, good-looking clothing and so on. You might take up pangsakula cloth. Pangsakula means cast-off cloth, something that's been used by others and thrown away. Might be dirty, might be damaged, something that people normally wouldn't want, wouldn't seek to use. But we might take it as a special practice, take it up to use for our own clothing, to teach ourselves. The Buddha even allowed us to take the cloth off a corpse, something that normally people would find repulsive, to take it and use it to make our own clothing. Because now we're changing our view of this, no longer seeing it in terms of a self, my clothing and the attachment to having beautiful, good-looking clothing perhaps, not getting caught into reactions of aversion or fear or revulsion, saying, oh, this cloth is too ugly for me to use, too dirty for me to use. Now we're taking this cloth up as a skillful means to teach ourselves, to help the mind counter its normal attachment to beauty, sensuality, the enjoyment of fine and beautiful things. We're contemplating, training the mind to see that really cloth is just made up of the four elements, earth, air, fire and water. There's no being or person in or owning that cloth. When the mind considers in this way, it brings it to peace. We can use Tudonga Gamatana in the same way to reflect on the other material things we're involved with. Medicines, our lodgings or food. Say with food we take up the leftover food from others and use it for our own. We contemplate to develop a sense of contentment with whatever food comes our way. We contemplate to see the unattractive nature of food, what happens to it. As time passes, if you have food, leave it on a plate or something, it starts to become unattractive. Once the food enters the body, you chew it, you swallow it down, it immediately becomes something unattractive. This is what we call ahare patikula sanya, developing the perception of the unattractiveness of food. We see that the hunger that drives us to eat, this is just the pain of the body. As food is digested, then the body starts to feel differently, it starts to feel empty, and we get some pain, the pangs of hunger. But that is just the feeling associated with hunger, the lack of food in the body, and is disconnected or unrelated to our desire for certain kinds of food, fine foods, and so on. So to help us also with this contemplation and practice, we practice moderation. We practice patience, learning to be content with whatever food is available. This is the custom or the habit of the Aryas, those who are well developed in the practice. They have a sense of contentment as a basis for peace of mind. They have fewness of wishes. They are free from intoxication and free from suffering. They have a sense of inner seclusion from the defilements, and this is what we call inner happiness, spiritual happiness. And there's no happiness higher in the world than the happiness of a peaceful mind. The mind that is not attached to happiness or suffering on the worldly level is the mind of equanimity. This is a well-developed mind, developed in the higher virtues of the path. So Gamatana is a way of a vehicle for developing this peace of mind, freeing it from its moods of liking and disliking and all its unwholesome desires, freeing the mind, cleansing the mind, bringing it to peace. So we should appreciate the value of both samatha and vipassana, gamatana. See the importance of developing this inner peace in this way. Reflect on the fact that time is passing by. It's constantly reminding us that life is uncertain, unpredictable, it's impermanent. As we contemplate the passing of time, we can see that all things are subject to arising, then they change, and then they pass away. And this is truth. This brings forth mindfulness, this quality of the one who knows, or the knowing. And we use this quality at all times, in all occasions of life. We use it as we are involved with the world around us, society and other people. And it's a quality that's where we keep bringing awareness inside to know ourselves at any one time. One who follows, looks after, is careful with their own citta, their own mind, will free themselves from Mara's trap, the trap of Mara or delusion. If we keep developing awakened awareness, heedfulness, and a clear comprehension of everything we're involved with in life, then this will free us from suffering. Atapi sampajano, developing a clear all-around knowing of that which we're involved with from moment to moment. This is a Dhamma that leads to our progress and success in the practice. Heedlessness leads to failure, death, decline. Pamado machino patang. Jitte sankalite dukkati patikanka. If the mind is defiled or caught into unwholesome dhammas, it will never experience happiness. Jitte sankilite sukhati patikanka. If the citta is developed with wholesome dhammas, skillful dhammas, this will bring it to happiness and well-being. This is the mind of a practitioner, a mind that has a basis in peace, well-being, kindness and compassion for others. So I've just been sharing with you some information, some of based on my experience in the practice, to help you reflect on your own practice, to see if you have developed your own refuge yet, to see if you have the qualities of sila or harmlessness, qualities of self-sacrifice, willingness to give up the attachment to self, seeing it as a cause of suffering. If we can do this, this is a cause for our life to become a life filled with light, radiance, a life that is beneficial for ourselves and others and full of spiritual virtue. So I'm giving you my support in your practice for developing yourself in a full and complete way as a human being. So you may see the importance of this and the urgency, the urgent need to practice, so that you may find Dhamma as your refuge, your true refuge, to support and guide you. The Dhamma is that which prevents you from falling into unwholesome ways and suffering. So if you see the importance of practice, then it will be cause for your constant spiritual growth and success and living life in a way that is heedful and with the Dhamma. Andamayang avadakata sadhu karang tatamasi sadhu sadhu sadhu